I find myself thinking about spiritual bypassing.
Hmm.
And, I know you know what that is, but just to kind of say out loud, just this way of using spirituality to avoid real responsibilities and real emotional problems or relationship issues.
Hmm.
And I feel like I can see a way where someone who was just trying to maybe disconnect with a very real problem in the world or in their own life could just try to shift their paradigm in a way that just makes it so that they're not seeing it, but it's still real.
Hmm.
For example, if someone were to say, I don't want to live in a world with injustice, so I'm going to stop believing that there is injustice. That would, of course, be a way of breaking from consensus reality that feels not like you're rising above it, but sort of falling below seeing it.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if you can just respond to that. How can we keep people anchored in what really is real and yet also open to universal potentiality?
Like you say, that's a really difficult question. Um, there are, I want to first address that there are spiritual bypasses, but there are people who use intellectualization as a bypass.
True.
There are people who use emotionalization as
Mm,
bypasses. Okay. So that's just part of that. So it's just interesting that even, because of dealing more in the spirit with people who are more on the spiritual part of the continuum, that happens to be the, I'm not, it doesn't exist because it doesn't exist.
mm,
But it, in a sense, that when we look around me and there isn't the COVID trauma drama where I live in, to the degree that it is someplace else, my reality is this. Your reality is something else.
mm.
Somebody in New York City working in the hospital, that's a different reality. Those are different realities. So I can't say that reality doesn't exist, but it isn't the one that I'm living in. It's like different channels on a TV or a radio
Yes.
or YouTube channels. Okay. It's like, well, my channel has me watching aquariums and fish things, somebody else's reality. So that's part of the challenge, right? How I choose to how I choose to be with those different realities is, I think, the challenge, the injustice. Am I turning my back? Am I ignoring it? Or am I working on myself in a way that shifts the vibration of it all? Because in a sense, when we do our own work, we're doing the work of the world. And sometimes that's hard for people. I love that there are people in the world that do social justice work because they're doing social justice work. They can do it in the world. I don't operate that way. I do personal justice work. When I'm dealing with the injustices in my own life in a way that is honoring of all of it and respecting, that shifts the vibration and the resonance and the consciousness level of the whole world.
That makes sense. That
So,
makes sense.
so I don't watch news programs. I don't want to hear anything about the politics because there's an insanity that skews me. Okay. I don't like that feeling. It doesn't help, doesn't solve anything for me, and it doesn't bring me to another level of higher consciousness. Doesn't. So some people will say, well, that's a spiritual bypass. It's like, no, I'm doing my work in a different way.
Makes sense.
So if somebody was coming in and saying, hey, I want to do something about social justice. Okay, well, so what's that look like for you? Well, I don't want to go out and be in protests. I don't want to, and I don't want to, and I don't want to. Okay, great. That totally makes sense to me because I don't want to, right? Or if somebody said, I want to be on the front lines, I want to, and I want to, and I want to, and I go, excellent. How do we make that happen, right? And so either way, it's like, how do we make that happen? Where's your way? Like we started out this conversation, every one of us has our own way of doing and being this human spirit. So a lot of people do take spiritual bypasses. Some people take political bypasses or economical bypasses or whatever it is, so they don't have to, and they can ignore and avoid their own anxieties, own hurt, feelings, brokenness, all of that.
Mm.
I'll do it all the time.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I know I've said the words "make sense" 5 times in the last 3 minutes, but I meant it every time. And I guess, yeah, it's interesting to think about how we can take many routes to bypass what we don't want to experience or
Mhm.
address. Maybe spirituality is an especially popular one because it's so appealing in many ways and just empowering to think about and practice. But it's true, you're right, that we can take bypass routes in many ways.
Mhm.